Today we're going to be fixing up this old ground plane ham radio antenna and then mounting it on the top of my cabin. The story with this antenna is that this is an old antenna that my dad put up, and he actually had it mounted in front of the cabin on a piece of conduit. And last year I moved it up to the apex of the roof of the cabin there, but I didn't guy it down or anything. And ultimately it either went down in a windstorm or in a snowstorm last year or the year before. And unfortunately, it bent all these radials up. I mean, that one's clearly the worst. So today what we're gonna do is we're going to pull this plate off. We're gonna cut some new radials for it. You're gonna get it remounted up there, build some nice guy wires for it. Hopefully we'll be able to see how far we can chat on a handheld with 5 watts. So let's jump right into it. I'm actually not even sure what frequency this antenna is for. I don't know if it's a 2 meter or a 70 centimeter. Based on the length, it's like 20 1/4 inches. So that's right about in the quarter wavelength realm for 2 meters. So this is most certainly a 2 meter antenna. So basically what we'll do is we'll pull the radials out, we'll measure them off, and then I've got some new tubing that I ordered online, and we'll cut that down to length, and it should be good to go. I remember this being a good antenna. I remember my dad getting really good reception on it, so I am excited to see how it performs. All right. Now, I don't know who makes this antenna. I don't know if this is an old diamond or what. The label that's on there kind of degraded in the sunlight, so your guess is as good as mine. This top plate off, and ooh, okay. So these screws actually go through the radials, which is interesting, which makes it a little bit more complicated because we'll have to drill these radials out, but it shouldn't be too hard to do. Famous last words. Ooh, that thing's full of bugs. Look at that. Nasty. All right, there we go. Radials are all pulled apart. Bugs are out of there. Now we've got to cut these down to size and figure out how we're going to make these holes. I don't have a drill press, so it might be kind of hard to freehand these, but I think I'll be able to do it. We'll be able to figure out our length based on these. And then we'll cut our new tubing down, get those holes drilled, get the radials remounted, and then start worrying about the actual house mount, which is going to be, I think, the interesting part. All right, I think we got to go to the barn now. I don't know if you guys have been in the barn yet, but welcome if this is your first time. I know it's a mess. It's another project for another day. All right. Now we're gonna get this hole drilled in it. And once I finish this one, I won't show you the process for the other 3 because it'll be exactly the same. A whole lot, if anything. that's basically it. So we're gonna repeat that process on 3 more of these radials, and then we'll mount it up and start working on the roof. Just to make sure that we have a good connection, I'm gonna get in there with some Scotch-Brite or something and clean all the debris out of there. I don't know how critical this is, but it seems like since these are actually like functioning as part of the antenna, that they should have good electrical conductivity to the rest of the antenna. I don't know, maybe one of you out there knows the answer to that and can tell me. Alright, that looks pretty decent and cleaned up now. This one will go here. Go in there like that. Next one, here like that. I'll crank down on these guys one more time. Make sure they're nice and tight. There's actually one more thing to finish this off. I remember when I was super young and my dad first put this antenna up, I remember there was these little red things on the end of each radial. So I bought them so that we can make it look just like it was before. There we go, completely fresh antenna. Looks just like new. All right, let's take a look at the roof mount. All right, in an effort to minimize the amount of trips I need to take up on the roof, I dumped out my duffel bag and filled it up with tools. I've got the coax here, which I'll test while I'm up there and make sure it's still good. And I've got the antenna that we just fixed. So we're gonna get up there, start kind of chipping away at things. We're up here now. You'll notice that I have been doing this barefoot. That's because I get better traction on the roof barefoot than I do with boots on. So let's test the coax out first. How we're gonna do this is we're just gonna test for continuity. I don't know if you can see this because I'm not looking at the camera, but this right here, this outer portion that I'm pointing at, that's the shield. And that connects to this outer portion on this connector. Okay, so overload on the meter, that means that, you know, that the resistance is infinite. So if we touch the leads together, we get 0 ohms of resistance. So what we want to see is some sort of continuity between these 2 inner pins. It's hard to do this with one hand, but it's coming up with 2 ohms. So that means there is continuity between the center pins. Now if I check the center pin versus the shield on the other one, it says overload. So that's good. Now if I check the shield on this one to the shield on this one, 1 ohm. If I check the shield on this one to the center pin, we get overload. So that coax is good. All right, now we need to get the mast up. Let me show you what the mast is. So this is the mast, and I'll get up on that ladder and I'll show you how I built this thing. This is like real simple hardware store parts. So yeah, we have to swing it back up vertical and then take the mast off to remount the antenna. I got you guys mounted on the vent for the bathroom. That's why you can hear flowing water. Okay, it's loose now, so I should be able to just pull it right out. There we go. Okay. All right, so what we've got to do here, first, I've got some cable in here, some real thin, I think it's 16th inch cable. We're gonna take that, we're gonna cut a length of it, like maybe 30 feet off of it, and we're going to crimp some loops onto the end of those 30-foot lengths on that. So we'll have 2 lengths of 30-foot cable hanging off of the base of that antenna. Then we'll mount that antenna to the mast, that mast to the mount, and then we'll string those 2 pieces of cable down to kind of make a triangle off of the antenna mount. I got a couple of eye hooks that we can screw into the, what is it called, fascia or the eaves, and also some turnbuckles so I can tension down the cables. So that in a nutshell is going to be the process. I'll try to talk through it as much as I can, but also you know how those things go. I'll string 30 feet of this stuff out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'll do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have them pulling off the bottom one of these rings, so I'll feed a loop of cable through there, crimp it on either side. I probably could have left a little bit more of a tail coming through there, but I feel pretty good about that. Just for your guys' own education, this is what the mount looks like. The reason it failed before is because it swung down from right here. That wasn't tight enough and there was too much load up there. But essentially, I don't know where these mounts came from, the 2 that are actually screwed in. But essentially it's just conduit with a couple of sweep 90s and couplers on it. And I think it's gonna work fine for this application. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna tighten this coupler down a little bit more. Might have to make another hole for the other section of coax to come in. That's from my cell booster right there, which is right there. All right, you can kind of see more what I'm working with now. Since I have this little extension on the side of the house right here. That's gonna be the lowest point that I can have like an equal triangle. I don't know if that makes sense. It'll make sense once I finish it and you look at it, but I'm gonna mount my first eye hook right here. And then I'm gonna measure the distance from that eye hook to the apex and copy it on the other side. So like 134 inches. I'll make like a little dog bone of a loop just to get the turnbuckle up above the level of the roof. I'll go 30 inches. Alright, so we've got a little dog bone, and then the turnbuckle is going to go here, and the guy wire from the antenna is going to come down and attach to that. Now that I've got the cables mounted on each side, I think that all I have left to do is actually attach the antenna to this mast here and screw it into the mount, and then do my best to get it set up and get these wires tensioned without causing it to fall over. I don't know if you can see it, but got the turnbuckles in, got the eye hooks in. Got the cables. Wow, they're really hard to see on camera. Now all we got to do is tension the cables down so that the mast is pretty level, and then route the coax and maybe throw it on a radio and see how it works. Here's what it looks like from the bottom side. Looks like it is a little bit cocked to that side too much, which means that side is a little bit too long, I think. Yeah, but for now it's good. All right, let's see if we can't hit the Mount Diablo repeater. That's gonna be probably about the furthest repeater I think that we can hit. I think it's a little over 100 miles away from here. What we're gonna be using today is just a Baofeng UV5R, real basic. Got the BNC adapter here, and then whatever this is, PL259. I will be bleeping out my call sign because I don't really want you guys to know where I live. This is the main Mount Diablo repeater that I know of, 147.060. And this is transmitting on 5 watts. Let's see if we can hit it. Okay, can I get a radio check?
Sounding pretty good in my mobile up here in Dixon. Kilo Golf 6, Papa Hotel Zulu.
Roger that. Thank you very much. I'm up here and only transmitting at 5 watts, so I'm impressed that I'm able to get in.
Copy that, copy that. A month ago, they've not been able to, but they just a couple of weeks ago got the receive antenna on this repeater straightened up to where it should be. So it's definitely made a huge difference for areas like where you're at. Yeah, you got a little bit of white noise, but for 5 watts, you're making an awesome trip into the machine there. Your modulation is definitely above the white noise substantially, so it's working for you.
Very good. Thank you so much. So there you go. That was a conversation that I just had with somebody in Davis using the Mount Diablo repeater, which is over 100 miles away, which is pretty awesome for 5 watts. So that antenna is going to do me real good. So anyway, I might cut the video here and I might show you how I route the coax through the roof and then kind of down into the middle of the house. I'm not sure yet, but yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.